All right, all right. You know what day it is and what time it is. It's 9 p.m. on Monday night, live in the Counselor's Corner for another open court discussion. I am your host, David Lorenzo Glover, aka the Controversial Counselor. Joining me is my co host, the Big Bad Wolf, Herb Lewis, as he rocks his Wolverine gear. Michigan, Big Blue. The panel will be who decides to join the panel, who has something to add to the discussion. Get with us. Recap from this past Monday's broadcast, mothers' manipulation of their sons. Go back and watch the replay on the YouTube channel, The Controversial Counselor, and the Reels, which gives you a snapshot on IG, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube. Okay, moving on to tonight, December 4th, 9 p.m. The topic will be how do fathers manipulate their daughters? Mm. If you know me, since the focus was mothers last week, and certainly I had to come back focusing on the dads. Well, let's set the table. Here are four ways fathers manipulate their daughters. One of them may be being hypercritical, and I'll go into more details. Two, invalidation of ideas and feelings. Number three, withdrawing of love. Four, message of never being good enough. Damn, I'm full already by just setting a table. This should be good. Okay, folks, please like and share our video and keep subscribing or telling others to subscribe to the YouTube channel, The Controversial Counselor. Sitting at, I don't know, I'm at like 784 subs, getting closer to 800. It's a beautiful thing growing organically based on hard work and consistency. So, everybody enjoy the show tonight. Please like it. Please share it. Share it to your page. Do what you got to do to, bring out more people. So, here you have it. We're here tonight. What's good with you, Big Bad Wolf?
Man, it's just another day in the neighborhood. Another day in the neighborhood. As the man used to say on the show, would you like to be my neighbor? It's pretty quiet. And birthday coming up, I had to transition with my plans because I got some things to do. I wanted to continue to misbehave, but I got some adult things to do. So I'm gonna have to scratch my plans and do something probably for the end of this month. I might even slide off on New Year's, slide north. But I'll see how things go. But I got no complaints, man. Life is life. I'm living, and it is what it is. I do have one complaint though, and this is for people who like to butt in where their opinion is kind of misguided. I was making a trip to a store. I won't name any places per se because I don't want to draw anybody's ire or piss anybody off. And made a comment to the cashier about posting a sign on the door about something. I guess either the manager or supervisor chimed in about the particular reason why something shouldn't be done. And she had half of the information because I replied that that isn't the case with the particular situation. And then she said, it's common sense. I said, no. I said, such thing. I said, common sense is acquired knowledge. I said, then and only then does it become common. And she asked me about something in terms of what I would do it in my house. I'm thinking, what do you think I'm using this for? So she had triggered, pardon the use of the term, she had triggered the nigga in me. And he's buried in there. On occasion, he does come out. I always tell people, I'm a synapse away from being that particular person. So don't push me because I'm close to the edge. And I might have to jump off the edge on somebody's neck. So, but other than that, I got nothing else.
Ain't not much, not much going on this way. Just trying to get through these last few weeks. Usually the dog days of the school year, where for whatever reason, well, I know the reasons, but A lot of kids they in mode to cut up before the holidays, and that could be due to many reasons. It could be just overall excitement, having a few days off, ready to go on break. About to celebrate Christmas, or it could be those kids that know. Every holiday looks the same. There's not much going on. And also, again, just overall, people, losing loved ones, and maybe the holidays don't have a significant value as it used to. So it could be multiple reasons. So it's just that time of year that every day seems long and more behaviors start to come out. So that's where I'm at. We already, well, we always count down the break, the days that we have left. Well, actually, I never really count down. I always hear other people saying how many days we have left, work days. So we'll just see. But to get back onto this subject matter, like I said, I like to run a equitable program, and we talked about mother's manipulation, and tonight um, we'll talk about dad's manipulation. And many people may not say, dad's manipulating their daughters, but yes, there's ways it happens. And I started off with was it 4 examples, and I'll start off with being hypercritical, and basically, you know, a lot of times the dad is that first male person in that girl's life, and if he's a decent dad, he's kind of the apple of her eye. Like, dad can't do no wrong, and especially if he pays attention to her. But sometimes dads could be hypercritical, like kind of like no matter what, he's going, he's always going to have something to say. You can't do this, you can't do that, and always on their case when really some of the things may not be as bad as he make it, but he's just old school, maybe set in his ways, and it's kind of his way or no way. So the manipulation comes in that he never opens up or say, you know what, let me, you know, try to base the kid on who they are. Like, she's a responsible young lady. She handles her business. Let me come with a different approach. Nah, he's just always hypercritical over everything. It could be something as, oh, she wants to go, she's 15, 16 in high school, wants to go to a little party or something. And the mother says, got to run it by dad. Of course, he may find every reason for her not to go or come up with all types of things, and it's based on him just being hypercritical, or she may be interested in someone. Good kid, uh, good GPA, two-family home, but dad may find something wrong. I don't like that boy. He's up to no good. He's gonna think he's better than you, or just always something that kind of plays into the kid's head, and they kind of may always lean toward what dad says, and they could lose out on some opportunities because of that. So that's one. Herb, anything you want to address as far as that hypercritical um, point?
Absolutely. I'm gonna follow that and get and stay in the same vein. You have a lot of fathers, especially if they have, an older son who quote unquote did everything the right way. And the right way could be, what the father wanted. And he will turn around and remark, you know what? That's why I was like your brother a little bit better, because he would always do things the right way. And that could actually set up the incorrect messaging, especially for a younger girl or a younger woman, especially if she's in her you know, pre-teenage years, pre-pubescent years. And like David said, fathers generally are the first apple in a daughter's eyes. So if she's saying if I can't, do things right by my father, and I don't know what is right because he's never opened up and told me what is right, then what am I to do? How am I to gain the affections of my father? So it puts a young woman in a very, very precarious position to where she may not have anyone to turn to. Because if her mother's not there and she's in a single father home, who is she going to talk to? Her uncle? More than likely, the uncle's probably going to view things the same way as his brother does. It's a no-win situation, and it's a very, very tough situation um to be in. So uh, it's not easy. It is not easy.
Got shout out to Dr. Anwar. I said the LL Cool J video. I need love. I remember this. Remember the song. I remember the video slightly. I would have to go back and kind of watch it, but I could just I could picture it, but I have to go back and look at it and kind of break it down. Also, number two, invalidation of ideas and feelings. Again, you have this daughter that she's, and I'm just throwing hypothetical examples out there. She wants to go away to college. Uh, she wants to get the hell out of wherever you're living, and she wants to go somewhere again to for a new opportunity, see different people. It ain't shit going on in the town y'all live in, and nah, dad ain't validating those feelings. She got legitimate reasons. She's in the top 10 of her class. Got a lot of other girlfriends that they're going away, got accepted into schools. She got accepted into these schools. Dad ain't having it. Nope. Not his daughter. Nope. Not going that far away. And he's thinking all types of maybe thoughts. Maybe he went to college and maybe he know how it is potentially at a college campus, and he just can't picture that. So he never validates her feelings. It's kind of like the answer is no. And if he's in a relationship, if he's still with the mother, and maybe she leans, so you better ask your dad. Better ask your dad. Your dad has the final say and whatever. And he just say no, and he's not trying to hear it. Absolutely not. Then that leaves that girl empty and with a lot of regrets. And as she get older, she started thinking like, man, I could have went here. I see all my friends, they go away, then they come back during Thanksgiving and Christmas, and they got all these good stories to tell. And I'm just local with the same knuckleheads, and she's bitter behind it. She felt like she got, manipulated. Like he didn't validate. He didn't let her talk and say, this is the reason why I think it would be a good opportunity. This is what I want to major in. These are the opportunities I can do. This is what this school is known for. Come on, Dad. And he don't even listen. He never validates the shit. His answer is no right off the bat. So that's that. Go ahead. Passing it on to you, Herb.
I had to dig for the story. It wasn't something that was readily available, but I came across a story of a family, if you will, in Montana. The mother had had divorced the guy, and I guess the family really wasn't a great family. The mother had her own issues, I suppose, but the father was had some mental issues that he struggled with, and he kind of self medicated with alcohol, a little bit of marijuana every now and then. He wasn't an abuser of drugs, but being that he had the mental health concerns and he medicated, it just made things a little bit worse. So he had ended up getting you know, custody of the daughters Don't ask me how. I have absolutely no idea how it happened. Three daughters. One named Sarah, who was going to school to be a cardiologist. The second oldest was 17, loved soccer, was good at it, was getting um, looks from colleges for a full ride 4-year scholarship. And the youngest, her name was Indira, 14. She idolized her mother. And from what I read in the story, that her mother did everything that a dutiful wife was supposed to: cook, clean, took care of the house, took care of the husband, worked when she needed to, because sometimes the husband just couldn't make the ends meet. He had a good job, but he just didn't always show up because of the underlying medical issues. So the daughter, she said, I want to be like mom. And the father didn't understand. He said, why? You want to divorce a man, have kids, divorce a man, and leave him to raise the kids? She said, no, I just like that kind of life. It just looked like something that I would enjoy doing. I get to spend time with my kids. I get to bake. I get to do all the things that a traditional housewife got to do. And the father he couldn't understand. And he was always pushing her, go to college. You know, I can always get grandkids from another source or whatever the case is. And he would not hear tell of her wanting to be a traditional woman. And that happens. We just don't hear about it. And the larger question is, why? Hopefully, I'll get into that a little bit later in the show.
Right, feel free, people. Anybody listening, if you got something you want to say, throw it in the chat or ask for the link and come on. Number 3, withdrawing of love. It's a case of one of those situations is if you do everything he says and go by his blueprint, he'll take good care of you. You can get whatever you want, but as soon as you buck and you do something against his norm or what he's used to, he kind of distances himself. And it could be the case of a situation where, that the parents are separated, and he, once you start, doing something, he could have said something like it from the beginning, like she can't start dating until she gets 16 or 17. Well, the mother says, oh, it's this guy, they're both in the 9th grade. He's cute. It's innocent. He comes over, they watch TV. I kind of supervise him, but the dad, like, no, like he doesn't want her doing that. He doesn't want her wearing nail polish. He doesn't want her wearing lipstick, any of that. He doesn't care about what other people, other kids are doing. And, the daughter ends up, bucking the system, or kind of the mother lets her get away. Like, okay, you don't live here. If you don't say nothing, I won't say nothing. And he won't even have to know. But he gets wind of it. Eventually, he may say, you know what? Cutting you off. Things I used to do for you, not doing it. And he may be distant. Oh, you don't need me? Go to your mother. She makes all the decisions because you don't adhere to anything I have to say. And so he withdraws himself. And, the mother may say, when the last time you talked to your dad? Every time I talk to him, he's short. Or I called him and left messages. He never called back. That was like a week ago. And now, all of a sudden, the daughter's feeling some kind of way. Like, I'm just, doing stuff that normal kids do. People my age, it's age appropriate stuff. But dad had kind of set the precedence from the beginning. Like, this is what will not go down. So she goes another route. He decides he's going to be distant from her. That happens.
And the funny thing about it is this: you probably got some guys that are going to hear the stream, whether they're listening to a live or they listen to the rebroadcast, and talk about how fathers don't do that. I got a name for you, especially for you Dallas Cowboy, San Francisco 49er boxing fans. And I'm sure you'll know who it is when I mention the name, David. Ken Norton Jr. His
Absolutely.
his father, he despised him, didn't talk to him at all once he got past a certain age. Now, just imagine that being a young woman. See, these things happen, and we tend to just kind of gloss over them because you really don't hear about these type of things in the media. Not really sure why. We hear about the Joe Jackson's, Michael Jackson's father. We hear about King Richard, Serena and Venus Williams' father, but we rarely hear about the fathers who go haywire, who just turn out to be tyrants. And let me read this. I looked up the definition of father. I see terms such as priest, a man that causes pregnancy, a man in relation to a child or children. Nowhere did I see abuser, dictator, or malevolent person. We'll get to that a little bit later. And I just mentioned, Joe Jackson, King Richard. And we know in America now, or at least we should know, that single father homes are on the rise now. That's going to give rise to more of these issues, and maybe more of these issues will hit mainstream media. Maybe they won't. We don't know. So we hear about mothers killing the kids, and there's a term for it. I didn't write the term down, unfortunately. I'll have to look that up and give it to you guys a little later. But we rarely hear about fathers doing it. And we know that stress has a huge effect on people, just in different ways. Men internalize stress a little bit more than women do, which is probably why men die earlier. And women tend to lash out. They'll yell at the kids, they might strike the kids. And like I said, some resort to taking the life of the child. Unfortunately, that happens. So, what tool do fathers use to try and control their daughters when their daughters are doing things that they don't want to do? David just mentioned one. We're talking about the other one. They withhold affections. And that's detrimental to a young woman's development. Because if you eliminate her her base behavior and her base response, she will become stunted in her development. So she's going to be ruined for any potential mate down the line. This is why men always ask, or you hear in certain red pill content creators, they're always asking about, ask a woman what her relationship is with her father, because that's going to set the foundation for how she interacts with men going forward. We haven't even got the body count. We haven't even got to religion or anything else. Just how she interacts with her father, because that sets up so much. It's the foundation upon which she's going to build with any relationship she has with the opposite gender, whether it's a co-worker, boss, friend, or lover. So, these things, they really are extremely important, because in that situation, a father can crush a woman's dreams before they even materialize, before they even get to a point of where they can grow. So I just want y'all to keep that in mind.
And which leads me to when I was doing the promo talking about it, I know many of you may say, why are they talking about again manipulation of the mother, manipulation of the dad? Why can't stuff just be a happy ending? And I know some of you are looking for that, but I'm not in the line of business and coming out here talking about Disney stories and things of that nature. And like I said in the promo, far too many times we swept this stuff under the rug. We don't want to talk about it and just figure like, oh, it didn't hurt. It didn't kill me, so I'm okay. But
Hmm.
these issues come out in other areas, and Herb, like Herb was saying, it could be at work. It could be with male authority. It could be in the dating game that you just you don't know how to show love to a man who may be affectionate, but you never received that from your um, father. So the thought of a guy touching you, you get all squirmish, and he like, yo, wait a minute, like, damn, baby, I'm just trying to, show you some love, and then, it'll get to the point that uh, that you'll say, like, he just, he's too touchy feely, he's annoying, he's too needy, and you flip the script on him, and he's just, you know, trying to be the best person he could be. And I could tell you it happens at an early age because I deal with a lot of girls. That's who come to see me, girls. And not saying the boys don't, but they kind of talk like you don't go sit in front of a counselor like that. So they try to be macho or again probably don't really want to be under the authority of a man or someone telling them what they shouldn't be doing or they don't want to hear. So they got a lot of avoidance. But you hear the girls often say about how they don't want to be bothered with boys. Or he called too much, he texts too much, and I'm like, I said, and this gonna come back to hunt you. They're like, well, I just, they tell me stories of how they just ghost guys, or after a while, guys that show them attention. And I'm like, it sounds like he like you. Sound like he want to give you, giving you the attention. And many people say, well, why are you having those conversations? You should be steering them toward their books. Listen, they're 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 past, they're a little more advanced in our stage, so they're already into this. So I have to, again, like I think I said last week, middle school issues are used to be high school issues. So a lot of the high school issues are in the middle school. A lot of the issues in high school is issues adulthood, like things that they go through. So if they're gonna come with that, I might as well raise it up a little level and tell them, this is what's going on, or why you don't like this person, to try to steer them on the right path. But many of them, because of their relationships with their dads, they kind of start coming out at an early age on how they treat boys that really like them, and they kind of give them the hard time. So
Yeah,
it comes out at an early
yeah,
age.
yeah. Matter of fact, got another story for you guys. This one involves a gentleman named Mayfield Stern. Unfortunately, his wife had died, kind of prematurely. She was 25. He had two kids before him and his wife married and had their daughter named Cindy. Um, Now, she had the wherewithal to take out a life insurance policy for $250,000. Good piece of change, I suppose. Now, her maternal grandfather was made caretaker until she reached the age of 18. I think when she died, she was 15 or whatever the case is. Um, because she didn't trust him. He was financially responsible. Even though he had the two kids prior to them getting together, she saw what she thought she could build with. Unfortunately, she didn't live that long. So, when Cindy got of age, he would start guilt tripping her. Your mother would have wanted you to take that money and make sure that me and my kids were good. Never mind what she wanted to do, what she wanted to go to college, whether she wanted to get married, you know, What he didn't care. So how is she supposed to navigate when the person who is half of her doesn't seem to care about any part of her? You know, her happiness, her future, what she wants to do, her her cares, her dreams. You know, he's more focused on himself. And those fathers are out there. Like I said, we don't hear about them. Maybe, you know, with the advent of, you know, the number of single father homes rising, more of the stuff will come to the forefront and more of it'll get attention. But they're out there. And like David said, because females tend to be more vocal, guys tend to not necessarily don't talk about it, they just talk about it among themselves more so than they, like David said, they'll go sit down in front of a counselor. Because I personally, I have a philosophy that I live by. There's problems and then there's issues. Problems you can solve yourself. You can talk among somebody, have a conversation, you can figure out. Issues, you need to go seek professional help. That's just my personal opinion, my personal perspective. And that's what a lot of guys seem to do. They seem to have problems and never really escalates to the issue category. And when it does, usually it's some type of legal medication that they resort to, or for guys, they end up self-deleting themselves. So unfortunately, it's half of one or six of one, half a dozen of the other. So, you know, it's not easy to be a female in a home where you're not valued, what you want isn't valued, even discussed, looked at, or even talked about. So, you know, if you happen, and I'm gonna target this particular statement to the fellas. And acknowledgement to BGS always talking about shadow work. This is something that we as men, younger men, we think it's a sign of weakness to the point of simping, and I understand that. But there's nothing wrong with being a confidant to a female to help her bridge the gap. Now, the only problem that a guy has is a lot of damaged women happen to be very attractive. And the guy's thinking, I don't give a fuck. I'm just here so I can get the panties. It's understandable. I'm not going to begrudge you that. The only thing I'm going to tell you is this. If you put your dick in the wrong vice, it just might get caught. So, choose wisely what vice you deal with, because the Venus flytraps are known to be killers. So, hone your skills with being a good listener, a good friend, and learn to pass up that vice for one that may not hurt you later in life.
So, as you were speaking, I started thinking about a situation from years ago. And this was more of a stepdad guy that played the role of the dad. And I remember, I'm not going to say no names or anything, but I remember I was dating this young lady, and we were young. I think I might have been like a senior or something. She might have been like a sophomore or something. And we back in those days used to write letters and stuff. And we would write each other letters. I mean, we saw each other, but we still would write each other letters. And so this guy must have went in her room and was reading her letters. And and one of the letters stated how we had made love. And of course, he didn't know or the mother didn't know that she was even having sex. So I remember calling. Uh, think I don't know if she told me like, oh, I'm in trouble. He found my letters or something, and or maybe she told me after the fact. But I think so it must have been after the fact. So I called, and I don't know, he might have answered the phone. And he's like, oh, just the person I wanted to talk to.
Uh-oh.
And he was like, uh, and he said something to the effect of, "Oh, you call yourself fucking my daughter?" And I'm like, yo, like, dude, like, what you talk about? Like, he said, "Oh, I read the stuff." Then I said, "Actually, sir, to be honest, I said I don't prefer to use those choice of words." I said, "I made love to her." So I think that kind of pissed him off more. It actually, she heard the conversation, the young lady, and she was kind of laughing and smiling, like yes, and then all I hear is her mother smacking the hell out of her, uh, because she was kind of like that's not what we do. Like you used the wrong choice of words. Like he's more respectful than that. You know, whatever he read it out of context. It was nothing to that nature. It was probably something passionate or romantic or whatever the case is. Romantic as I could be as a junior or senior, but I just remember that. But then, as time went on, the mother would call me and be like, "Listen, if you care about her, come get her, because I'm about to. We ain't getting along like that, and I need you to come get her." So it's just interesting how how the tables change, or how um, I was able to kind of win the mother's trust based on, I guess, the way I treated her daughter. So just wanted to throw that, just came across my mind. It's still connected to the conversation, but it just lets you know that certain things that the mother had instilled, and I think she ended up not being with that guy anymore. So I became like someone that she could count on. Like, listen, I know she's in good hands with you, so please come get her if you care about her, because I'm about to kill her because she got too much mouth. And I would come get her, and she would come. And like I had a house or something, I was bringing her to my mother's house. But hey, had to do what we had to do. Sorry, moms, putting you out there. That yeah, I had overnight company at certain certain times. But hey, I was 18, 19, I think, then. So don't make it right, but hey, it happens. Rather us be better than that than us being out in the damn street somewhere.
Hey.
So I just wanted to share
Hey,
that.
man. I mean, you, it's it becomes difficult, for a female, when she's at that particular point in her life where she wants to take that step. And we talked about this a couple weeks ago, with the rite of passage. Get my hat straight here. With the rite of passage, and what to do, especially when you don't have a mother or an older woman who can more or less guide you in a direction. Because ultimately she's gonna make her own decision, whether she feels comfortable enough, whether she's ready enough, or whether she even trusts the guy enough to even do that. Because disease is probably the least of her concerns. Pregnancy is probably more of the bigger issue, especially if she's hanging out with somebody that's 3 or 4 years older than her and he's pressuring her. You know, she don't want to lose him, but she's not ready. So what does she do? This is why you hear, And I'm sure David can attest to this. This is why you hear all these younger girls talking about performing oral sex because they're not ready to take that step. And they grew up in the Bill Clinton era. They said, well, it's not sex. I didn't have sexual relations with that girl. It was just this. You know, so for an individual to get to that point and start to rationalize it, they become okay with it. And then all of a sudden you say, okay, she's already done this. We know what's next. Then the question becomes, is she ready? And if she isn't and she does it anyway, she's going to be compromised because now, for most guys, excuse me, that is a pinnacle for them, for most women, unless they plan on marrying a female. And we look at the way marriage rates are going now, that's not going to happen for a whole lot of women, regardless of their ethnicity, their upbringing, in college education, whatever other metric you want to use. So all she's doing now is she's setting up a template for another sexual encounter down the road when this one probably doesn't work out. And we all go back to what David said earlier about, her father saying, no, you can't go out with this guy, you're too young. At what point does she become old enough? We all, I don't care who you are, what you do, where you're from, we all thrive and build off of our experiences, whether they're good, bad, or indifferent. But if all you have are bad experiences, then guess what you could probably replicate? More bad experiences. Good ones you tend to replicate because you say, okay, it's Pavlov's theory. I do this, I get this. I do this, I get this. I want more of this, so guess what I'm gonna do? More of this. It's a very, very tricky game that a lot of young women now are getting caught up in more so than past generations. Now you can talk about feminism and the court system and single parent homes, whether it be single mothers or single fathers. The end game is this: what we're doing right now, it's not working the way it used to, or maybe the way it used to didn't work out so well. We just happened to gloss over the problems better, and the community was there to help. Either way, none of that support group is there. So a female who may have gotten out to a bad start, she can't arrest that bad start because there's nothing around that helps her. School, church, home, community, nothing. So then what? Is she doomed to get to her late 20s, early 30s with no prospects of a quote unquote happy life? No prospects of having a kid in a marriage that she might want. Questions. It's like the deeper down the rabbit hole we go, the more questions we have. And the only way to actually even address this is to start having these kind of dialogues.
One of the things I think about when I go back to my childhood days, when you think about girls who had fathers in the household, it was a little it was a little different in the way you interacted with them. Now, granted, a lot of it we don't know behind the scenes conversations, or like we had addressed some of the um, earlier talking points on how the dad was. But as young men, you kind of knew like uh, I'm not really trying to. I don't even really want to be even around that house, knowing that she has, you know, dads or say for example bigger brothers that was 3 or 4 years older than you. Uh, but it seemed like the girls who had the single moms and that they worked, afternoon shift. Those was the girls that guys was trying to get at, because a lot of times they were doing things they probably had no business doing. They're letting people in the house that they had no business doing, and then you want, and then that's why, as Herbert was saying, situations happen that at a young age, some girls put themselves in positions that it probably wouldn't have happened if they had more, if it was more supervision or structure around. Because I could tell you, it was some wild ones out there. It was some wild ones that did wild things that with the wild people, with multiple people, and at a very young age. And for me, that I never was really a part of that, because for me, I would say I was kind of a slow starter when it came to you know girls back in the days, and my friends were, again, a little more advanced. But now that I look back at the prospects that they had, I'm like, that shit wasn't hitting no nothing. But at the time, boys were just looking to put a little notch under their belt, and
That's it.
but you understand the dynamics of when it was a father in the house. You wasn't just going to knock on the door, and or of course, but then you looked at, okay, is his car around, or is the mom's car around, or whatever the case is, before you would even attempt to do that. Now it was all good if you was all in with the dad, and your dad was around, and they kind of hung out, but you were close to the age of the girl. It was all good. But if you was just some random person and thinking, okay, I'm gonna come 3 or 4 blocks from over there to come try to holler at this girl, you was in for a rude awakening. And oftentimes, a lot of times, when situations didn't work with moms and pops, the girls would end up having, they would have like anger issues or attitudes, that their father wasn't around. And I think I always say kids like protection.
Hmm.
I don't care what you say, and they like structure.
Hmm.
They may act like they don't, or they may say, "Oh, you too strict" or whatever. But change up on them and act like you don't care about anything. Just like live haphazardly, and they could do anything or whatever. Come in and they'll start like, you ain't even say nothing about me coming in late, or you don't care. You didn't care about me going to school. I don't think you would take it that far, but certain times you may just say, you know what, I'm not going to even say nothing. I'm just going to see how they work, and they'll become concerned, like, damn, like, or if you just shut down and just like, okay, you grown, you can do everything. I don't have nothing for you. I don't have no answers. I don't have no conversation for you. Sooner or later, they'll start thinking like, damn, mom, dad, you are you mad at me? Are you
Yeah.
upset at me? You really haven't said nothing to me these last 2 or 3 days, because they really want that structure. They need that structure. And I always make parallels to school, with the teachers. Some teachers they're real structured, they discipline. You can't hear a peep when you go in the classroom. But then when you talk to kids after a while, those are the teachers that they end up loving the most. And they end up getting a kick out of it, because they end up understanding the game. Like, okay, this teacher I can't play around with.
Right.
I can't do this or do that. I got to buy into their system. And once you buy into their system, you may get you'll get rewards, or you'll get preferential treatment. So it's just a lot of it's a lot of layers to all of this that you have to think about, and that's even sometimes with dad. Sometimes you just gotta find a way to work it. You got to know what makes them tick. And what was interesting, I was speaking to a young lady today, and she was saying how her birthday was this month, and I said, so let me ask you this. I said, ever do you get your dad something for his birthday? And she was like, no. And then I'm like, she's like, I call him. I might FaceTime him, but he lives out of state. And then I said, do you get your mother something? She was like, well, yeah, well, it's really not my money, but, maybe her stepdad gives her money for the mother or whatever. And I said, so why won't you get your dad anything? Um, and I said, you know what? I said, I'm telling you. I said, does he still wear fitted hats or caps or anything? I said, if you bought him that and you sent him that as he getting older, I said he would cherish that probably for the rest of his life. And he would say, my baby girl got me this. He probably would wear that shit with everything. And she's like, oh, Mr. Glover, that means I would have to mail it off. Okay, what's wrong with that? But the different things that happens in households. So sometimes dads may feel unappreciated, like they don't appreciate. So that's where you may get that shutdown mode from them, or whatever the case is. He might be on one and say, you know what, it's her birthday. Shit, I ain't calling. I ain't calling today. I'm gonna act like the day just went by because she don't call, she don't do nothing, don't send me a card or whatever the case. Because I said, do you send them a card? She's like, no. I said, well, you would send it off earlier so that they would have get to him in time. But she really wasn't buying into it. But she, was saying it was her birthday and her dad better do this or better do that for her.
Hmm.
So I just found that interesting. Like, man, dads get the raw deal, man, out of this. They get the raw deal, man, out of these
You know what's funny?
situations.
I have asked this question to a guy down at the corner store, and I asked him. I said, "When Christmas rolls around, who gets the best gifts? Kids, mother, wife, father, or mother, wife, father, or husband?" It's the kids, naturally. Who's next? Probably wives. And just like David said, who gets the worst Christmas presents? Fathers. So this begs the question, and we always talk about men and emotions. Let's dispel the misnomer. Every human, regardless of the gender, has emotions. Yes, men have emotions. We react to certain things, but it's the way that we react that denotes the difference between a female using her emotions and a man using his. We, David's talked about emotional intelligence, and that plays a huge role in a lot of things that a lot of people do nowadays, and most of us really don't even understand how emotional intelligence is defined. And I'm not going to get into it that here because that's not necessarily what we're discussing. But men do reach a point where they're just fed up. They're tired of being overextended. The shout out to BGS and Dr. T. Hassan Johnson for, their tireless work on emotional labor. We'll get into that on this platform a little later because I think that that's something that goes hand in hand with what David just mentioned. And men are just saying, you know what? I'm done squeezing this orange and I'm not getting no juice. I'm thirsty and I want something to drink. And I got to go somewhere where, at least when I squeeze the orange, I get some juice. But right now, I'm not getting any juice. And people think it's wrong for men to turn off like that. And people don't realize that's a lot of what Western culture is coming to. People think the passport boys or bros or whatever, passport Joes for Caucasians, they think that's the end. Here to break it to you. This is the beginning. The end hasn't even come to the table yet. It's not even on the railroad tracks. And when it does come, the women that potentially might have kids with a man who's fed up, whether they get divorced or they produce children out of wedlock, there's going to be a lot more compromised young women than is going to be a lot of compromised young men. And what that means is this: more trips to psychologists, more medication, more rises in attempted self deletions. We already know that women attempt it more than men, they just don't succeed. So, all these things are are going to play out in the next generation. We may, those of us who are listening now, we may not be here to witness it, but there's going to be a very heavy price that women are going to pay because of the freedoms that you have now, and not understanding that with, as they adage say, with freedom comes great responsibility. Um, Start to, I don't want to say rein in. I think that's a bad term, bad phrase, but start to curtail how your daughters use their freedom. Start to curtail and arrest the bad relationships that your daughters have with their father. Let them go see their father. And as my mother, you know, she never, ever has bad mouthed any man in my presence. I have never heard her in her 84 years on this planet, not once. And I'm sure she could have. My mother could spit it with the best of them, but she just didn't. I don't know if she didn't have it in her. Maybe she had the wherewithal to understand the role that she played in a lot of the decisions and outcomes in her life. So it's going to require, a lot of humility, a lot of being humble, and a lot of genuflecting for women to understand that, hey, even though he may not be the best father that I could have selected, he is my child's father. And he needs to have access to the daughter so she can judge for herself, because we as adults tend to not give kids the credit that they deserve for being able to figure out which parent was a problem in the relationship. And matter of fact, I'll go back to my situation I had earlier this year, late last year, with the whole paternity thing. I didn't have to tell that boy about his mother. He knew. He didn't know me, but he knew enough of me to realize I wasn't the problem. Let your kids figure out who the problem adult is in the relationship.
I want to. Dr. Anwar said, "Do fathers and men care about getting gifts?"
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say for the most part, it's not. A lot of times, it's just it can be the same shit over and over. It's something that you like, and even I think about my father. He wasn't around after I turned 10, and so we really kind of gravitated toward my grandfather. And once I started getting older to be able to buy him stuff, he was into his hat game. So if I bought him like a Kango or something, or he liked his plaided shirts and his khakis or something, you bought him an outfit. That shit went a long way with him. He would be happy as I don't know what. And it was like the same stuff over and over that we accept and we take, and it don't matter. For me, I like hats. I like sweaters. I like socks. Stuff like that. dads usually they're okay with the same stuff, and they'll just add to their collection, add to their collection. Now, women, y'all, y'all do the most, get carried away, want to have these $300, $400, $500 gifts. For guys, it seems like simple, and especially if it's coming from their kid, and they took the time to say, "Hey, ma, I seen this hat. I think my dad'll like it. Can you help me get it?" And he'll wear that shit with everything, especially when it came from his child. Sometimes you gotta find what makes people tick, and you'll be able to get different results out of them. Even if it is your parent, grandparent, or something, you got to do something. You just can't think that everything's gonna come your way because you're a child or whatever, or a woman or whoever. Got to find out. Like you got to even the playing field and balance things out. And, and people, you may get different results based on that.
I always tell people, if I don't specifically, because I don't have any kids, of course, if I don't specifically point out something to you, don't buy it for my birthday. I always tell people I don't expect gifts on my birthday, so when I don't get any, I'm not surprised. If I do, I'm thoroughly surprised and always appreciative. I was just holding up a globe. I'm a person that loves crystals. Matter of fact, I was gifted this a couple of years ago, and it's sitting on my desk in the original packaging, and I'll pull it out. And it is a crystal. You're not going to be able to see the details, unfortunately. Well, actually, you can. It is a crystal with the engravings of our solar system, and it comes in a silver stand. I absolutely adore this gift. I don't know how much it costs, but the fact is that the individual paid attention to what I was saying in terms of buying me gifts. I treasured this, okay, and I'm sure it wasn't that expensive, and it didn't need to be. It was something that I really really like. I get magazines from the Smithsonian, and I saw something else in there that I'll probably end up getting for myself, which is a crystal um, that kind of glows like a lava lamp, and the same principle. So, yes, guys do, and it's just like David said, it doesn't have to be anything extravagant. Um, it's more of the thoughtfulness behind that guys are actually looking for, and sometimes it could be utilitarian. You know, um, I'm getting it. I'll be getting into woodworking this coming year. Somebody could go out and buy me a plane. If you don't know what a plane is, go look it up. And I'm not talking about the ones you fly in either. Um, Anything like that. Um, Usually, the older we get as guys, we tend not to expect anything because that's the way society is. Guys, just get them a tie. Usually, you find fathers with a collection of ties that they don't like, they have no use for. But if it's from a child of this, they'll wear just like David said. They'll wear to to the threads fall apart. So and I'll put this out there for people. If you have um, a particular male in your life that you like, I'm not saying you have to. He has to be a relative, and you want to get him something. Drop a couple magazines off. Um, brochures. Be clandestine about why it is that you're asking, and ask him what he likes. And if you're lucky and fortunate enough to go see what he does in terms of hobby, he might be a stamp collector. He might be a coin collector. Hey, go buy him some stamps. Go buy him some vintage coins. Hey, and I'm not saying you have to break the bank. It could be something that costs $20, $30. Me personally, I collect silver coins, US coins, Canadian coins. I have a host of $2 bills that I collect, silver certificates that I have. All of that stuff really doesn't cost a lot of money, but the bang you get for it, especially when you present it to him, the look on his face will tell you that he's been touched in a way that he generally doesn't get to display. And I guarantee you that every time something comes around for you to do and you need a hand, that man will be right there. Guaranteed. I'm willing to bet my life on it.
Yeah, and I think that goes with, as people get older, sentimental value of certain things that you have to you have to take a look at it and have to say, you know what, I typically don't do this, but bless you, they're getting a little getting a little older, then you may want that extra effort. So that was that as far as that, and then as we go on and I look at some other potential talking points about the subject matter, the emphasis of daughters craving male attention when they don't get attention from. We kind of touched on it earlier, but a lot of times is vital that and the ones, and people make the comments, or she ain't have no dad in her life, or she looking for male attention, or whatever the case is. But a lot of young ladies become promiscuous because of that, and they're looking for male attention, and uh, I get, y'all tear me down every time I mention this. I'm not one to buy into when women say, I don't mess with girls. All my friends is guys. Whatever. I just roll. I just never bought into that, and I remember her remember when, what's his name, Steve the Dean was in the on cocktail
Yeah,
conversations, and he was
yeah.
like, "Shit, out of 4 or 5 of them dudes, 3 or 4 of them, excuse my language, want to fuck you." And the women, like, "Oh no, no, we just cool like that." Now they just waiting. Some of them can wait a little longer for the opportunity to come. They'll wait a little opportunity, but because again, I don't know who said this. I don't know where it's from, but they was like, most of the time when guys are your friends, they ain't they ain't hanging out with no chick, duck looking chick. The chick, she go look like she go, and I know that may seem shallow or whatever the case is, but many of the guys, if they call themselves good friends or something, it's the girls that look better than average. And I know that may be hurtful to some, but many of them, that's just what they do. And, they may, and I'm not saying all, sometimes the relationships are genuine, but a great deal of it is they just buy, and they just may be buying time.
Mhm.
Buying time, like, oh, man, if she slip up, man, you just don't. And the reason I know this because we had these conversations and people talk about it, but just something to think about as far as that, and that always like kind of annoy me when women talk that girls too catty, this and that. My closest people was guys. Yeah, okay, okay. I mean,
It's,
and some girls they know how to work it. They may have a guy friend that could do a little bit of everything, so they don't have to pay for much. But I
yeah,
bet you this, based on the quality or the of your looks, that goes a long way too on what some of these guys will do.
I mean, it, it it bears repeating. Um, a female that doesn't have female friends, she's imbalanced. Her life is imbalanced. And I would tell fellas, hey, look, ask why. And when you do ask why, don't necessarily make it an open ended question. Pin her in the corner and ask her, what would you do different to have more female friends? Let me give you a tip. If she says nothing, she's the issue causer. Not problem, issue causer. Remember what I said earlier about issues and problems? She's the issue causer. Because if you ask a guy who fell out with his boy, you say he'll tell you, you say, you know what? I should have did this different. Maybe I should have said this like that. Maybe I did should have did this. That's the reflective. That's the genuine reflectiveness that guys tend to exhibit that women often don't. Well, I won't say never. Often, this is why you hear a lot of women talk about, like David just said, catty female friends. If you can be friends with a guy, then surely you can be friends with somebody who shares your thought processes, the your emotional state. How can you not? That's Let me put it to you like this. That's like being on a team with somebody you can't play with. How the hell is he on your team? How the hell is she on your team? You can't play with him? That doesn't make any sense to me. No whatsoever.
Shout out to Ann Johnson. Thanks for joining us. Joining us, he said, I have a daughter myself. In some change, I'm definitely keeping her close to my chest. Plus, I'm kicking game to her already, and that's what it's all about: kicking game, and letting them know this is the deal. And sometimes you got to break it down in their terms.
Yeah.
And if you could do a good job of that, they'll appreciate your feedback, and they'll keep coming back for more. Especially if they're like, "Damn, Dad was right again. Damn, Dad, stay right." Uh, about certain situations, but you have to get to that point. Sometimes you have to get down to their level, uh, and be able to understand their culture as well, to know that it's a different time. And when you can do that and you can build those connections, then they kind of understand. Me personally, I'm a storyteller, so I like to tell little stories or give examples, but they'll act like they're annoyed by it, but they enjoy it. That's Facebook user. What about when Dad is a narcissist?
That's Radiant Row, by the way.
Okay. And my dad hit me to how boys and men looked at me when I'm not looking. I appreciate it now that I'm older. Well, some of these characteristics, Ronell is narcissistic behaviors, and and that's the thing, which will lead to manipulation of the daughter, and sometimes it's not all. So we didn't want to paint a picture that is all good with dads, because sometimes that
Yes, it's
it's
not.
not right. Eh, and it impacts the daughters. So when they're a narcissist, it's just one of those things that they'll find out down the road that damn they got hoodwinked. Hopefully they'll find out before he passes away, and they're old enough to say, "Damn, Dad, I remember this or I remember that," and
Yeah.
and that depends on how flexible he is because some dads will go out to the grave that they write with everything and
Mhm.
don't care. And so she's giving signs of a daddy's girl. So hopefully we can curve a lot of the life issues dealing with man that these young women encounter. And that's a good thing.
GI Joe is noted for saying that knowing is half the battle, and simply put, a lot a lot of these kids, regardless of the gender, they don't have nearly a fraction of the information that we had. They may have, you know, an omnipotent, omnipresent tool in their hand, but they have no idea how to go about getting information. They have no idea um, what to look for. And generally, that's because that template is destroyed. You were asking about a narcissistic parent. People don't realize how much you can learn from somebody who's a narcissist, and B, what they can teach you. Now, I know it sounds like, who the hell wants to learn from a narcissist?
Remember, we had a show a few months ago, and it was some qualities that people. I said a lot of times people run with that word, but it is some qualities that narcissists have that's are a lot of leaders have. Leaders that you look up to and be like, damn, and they would be considered narcissists.
Yeah,
Shit, one of the greatest icons y'all would ever think, Jordan. You probably would say, damn, was he a narcissist? He couldn't lose at anything. He didn't want to lose. The way they say he said things to people, how he treated people, whatever the case, but he's beloved. He's
yeah,
beloved. It's
yeah.
Jordan.
So I would tell people, hey, learn from who you can. I don't care if you don't like them. I don't care if you don't think fondly of them. Information is invaluable. So wherever you find it, absorb it, and most importantly, use it. Don't have some vital information that you're just carrying around like a purse and there's nothing in there. Use the information. It's only information is only as good as I'm sorry. Information is only good when you use it. It makes no sense to have all the information and just sit there and do nothing with it. Why get the information then if you don't want to use it? So, a narcissistic parent can teach you a whole lot. You know, don't sell them short. Don't necessarily run with everything that they tell you. Trial and error. It's as old as time and man. You know, find out what works for you. Find out what doesn't work for you. And more importantly, when you find something that works for you, understand why it works for you. Because David and I can have the same information, and he may go out and implement it. It may not work for him quite the same way that it works for me. So there's always degrees in everything that we do. I might have to tweak something to get it right. Dave might have to do something a little different to get it right. But we still come to the same result because we found out that it works. We just didn't quite understand how. It's almost like um uh making a cake. And I know this sounds stupid as hell, but I'm gonna use it anyway. If you're in Denver, Mile High City, you have to cook that cake at a different temperature because the atmospheric pressure is different than it is at a lower elevation. Same cake, same ingredients, but you just gotta change the heat. Heat is pressure. So you might have to apply pressure to someone to get them to do something, and you might have to not apply as much pressure to somebody to get something. But you have to learn that, and the only way you learn that is by getting in. You can't sit on the sidelines and watch this stuff go by and then sit there and lament. Well, I never get that. No, you only get. David always says this, and he posted about it today. In terms of math, greater than, less than, or equal to. What are you putting in?
And couple things. One of the things also we have to understand that certain words have different meanings. A lot of times we get caught up in just reading the first definition of what something means instead of going through and reading two, three, and four. And once we get honed into one definition and without looking at all the context clues and things like that, we don't realize we would make a word just seems like, oh, it's the absolute worst thing. But then if you read like, oh damn, two, three, or four, that meant something different. So it's not all that bad. And I think we need to dig a little deeper. You sometimes you have to go a little deeper with stuff. And Ant said that's that will to win. I have a similar drive for sure. That's why I feel confident my little girl going to be solid in navigating through this world. And and that's a characteristic, that will to win, that no matter what, they that that's the type of person that feel like they're not going to be defeated. And when you have that in your DNA, it's not too much somebody could say to you because you built different. You're not about to take no L's. So whatever they say, if it don't sound right, you gonna challenge it, and you gonna go out to the end like, this shit in my heart, this don't feel right. So you gonna pack your lunch. We gonna battle with this one, and that's a great characteristic. Some people may say it's just being stubborn or whatever the case is, but hey, a lot of the great winners they were stubborn as hell with some of the things they did. So sometimes we have to look at stuff and take it a little deeper on the way words are used, the meaning of words, and how people apply it. One of the other points I wanted to talk about too that uh, is impactful in the situation is sometimes fathers exploit daughters' talents, and that's a part of the manipulation process too. When you use that same dad that you weren't open to what she was saying. You weren't buying into it when she said, I wanted to go here because I wanted to this is a good program for me to become a doctor. And but you shot all that down, and no matter what, she stayed locally and did what she had to do, and now she's on path. Now all of a sudden, your ass coming out of nowhere when you kind of remember withdrew the love because she might have not did everything you wanted her to do, but now all of a sudden, when you see success and you're coming out of nowhere, you want to be all up in fucking pictures, want to post and shit, my baby girl, this and that, and she never felt that love, never felt that connection, and you never validated her feelings. But now you see success, and you want to be all up in it. Uh, don't talk
Like we're
bad about
talking
Richard
about.
Williams. I'm not even thinking about Richard Williams, but hey, if that's how it was, you know what? I never even seen that movie, whatever, King Richard. I never watched it. I've been meaning to, but I never watched it. So maybe that,
There's
y'all
you
can
know,
shed more light to it.
the funny thing about that entire story, because I actually looked into that, is there's some backdrop to the whole King Richard story that a lot of people don't know about, and this is what we were talking about last week with with the mother's manipulation of the sons and buying homes and things of that nature. Is he don't say he was given a raw deal per se, but he has been made out to be worse than what he was. Not like Joe Jackson. Joe Jackson, by some estimates, and Joe Jackson, I'm not talking about Shoeless Joe Jackson. I'm talking about Joe Jackson, the patriarch of the Jackson Five. Depending on who you speak to, he was a great father, and he wasn't a great father. Like I said, it depends on who you speak to. So it's that perspective. Um, excuse me, it's that perspective on what do you consider great. I don't know.
So tell me, because like I said, I never with King Richard. So what was the deal with that?
Well, they said it was mean, but beyond that, um, the thing that I came across, the latter part of the story was that he sold their childhood home to cover debts from a business expense that their mother got into. So they ended up buying him a house so he wouldn't be home so he wouldn't be homeless.
Are you about to send Gavin a link?
Yeah. So I mean,
So that was a good one, Dr. Anwar. No, I wasn't even referring to him when I was saying it. I was just saying, I'm just thinking about like ordinary people that kids going and shit. You can think about sports winning state championships and all of a sudden they're good in basketball, good in sports, but the father like, oh no, you don't need to play that, you don't need to do that. And then they end up being great in it, and then all of a sudden, like I said, now they ass posting everything. Like, hey, look at my girl, look at this and that. But you weren't part of the process. And and I think the great John Wooden always said the process is always greater than the end. And you wasn't a part of that,
matter of
which
fact,
is hurtful.
oh, matter of fact, I believe um Lionel Richie had fathered a daughter, and I can't remember the entire backdrop, but I want to say she's a professional tennis player. Went on to do well, but nobody knew who she was until one of the announcers had actually said it. Matter of fact, let me while we're talking about it, let me.
All good, bro. Just tossing up some jokes. I know. I ain't taking no way. I appreciate you being a part of the dialogue, and it's true. It's some guys out there that's associated with that. Popping out of nowhere all of a sudden, or was mean, or kind of neglectful, and then once their child found success, and we just happen to be talking about women tonight, all of a sudden they're active. And the crazy thing is, sometimes children, men or women, long for that attention from their dad, that they still accept them in, no matter what. Me, I love boxing, and this is different. It's more of a son to a father. But when you think about Floyd Mayweather and Floyd Senior, um, how how they go back and forth and went back and forth. Floyd kind of would cut the dad off, but then would had Roger, the uncle, in and was shitting on the dad. But then as he got older, and his dad, he realized like, damn, Roger was more as far as the boxing, he was more the offensive coach, and my dad was about defense. So I need to bring my dad back in here, uh, and it worked for him. But sometimes it takes maturity or growing up to realize, shit, my dad ain't always been there, but he got something to add to my success. So I'm gonna have to work through it and have to bring him back into the equation. Someone said when your daughter, when you, let me see, when your daughter tries to talk to dad and explain how exhausted she is of being responsible for their relationship, dad told her she was a liar, and I wish you well. Wow. Yeah, that's just.
Big
That's,
boy.
I don't mean to laugh or whatever.
Woo.
That's just cold. That, and
Yeah.
again, kind of like we talked about it, that some of them just feel like shit. I'm done. I ain't. Talk to your mother, but the daughter's still, in this case, still reaching out, still trying to be the responsible one, and he, like, I wish you well. Mm. He got deeper stuff to deal with,
Hmm.
and he ain't ready right now. And I don't, can't never say when somebody's gonna be ready.
Ooh. You there, Gavin?
Yeah, I'm here. Hey, what's going on?
Go
What's
ahead.
going on, brother?
How's it going, guys?
Good, good, good. I don't know how much
Okay.
you heard or what you want to add to it, but feel free.
Came in late, of course. I just got home about a few minutes ago. And what I heard, last thing I remember before I joined the cast, I mean, was you were talking about King Richard and Richard Williams and what was the deal with him?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then when I joined just now into the program, it was about Floyd Mayweather. So I guess I missed that little lag in between.
When I tied that in, I was like, sometimes,
Oh.
you know, no matter what, if boy or girl, you have little situations where um, it may not work out. Like Floyd was angry at his father for some of the things he did and he wasn't around, and then he had his Uncle Roger a part of his corner. But then as he got older, he realized, okay, Roger's more taught me offense. And as I get older, I need to implement my father's defensive skills. So that's when Roger mind starts slipping with dementia and all that stuff. May he rest in peace. But his father became more active, so Floyd realized he needed his dad too, even
Okay.
though they had a rocky relationship at
Right.
times.
Okay. Yeah. I didn't follow Floyd Mayweather too much, but with the whole Richard Williams thing, I did see the story and he went through a lot, not just with Venus and Serena, but real talk. At one point, he got beat up over some guys for noticing how his stepdaughter, when she was going through puberty, was starting to fill out. And they were kind of hollering at her real disrespectful at a park where he was just training his actual two daughters. One thing
Hmm.
led to another. He got beat down bad.
Wow.
Hmm. And this is
Tough.
at the
Tough out
time
there
when
in
he was.
LA.
Go ahead.
No, I was saying it was tough out there in LA.
Yeah, hell yeah. And this is back in the 80s, like, when the whole gang thing was popping off. And with some guys in the set that were just hanging around at the tennis park where, he was trying to train Venus and Serena with, and their older sister, like I said, was filling out. But she was still in her teenage years. And he was just letting him know, don't talk to my daughter that way, man, have some respect. And they didn't give a shit. They beat Richard down bad over a daughter that wasn't his stepdaughter. The man would go to work. He was a security guard, armed. And if you know anything about here in California, you can only use your weapon when you're on duty. After you off duty, you got to lock it up.
Hmm.
So he went through a lot for all the kids that he raised, biologically and maritally, matrimonially.
So,
And where is he now? Mm, ouch.
so what y'all saying? He's not a part of their success anymore.
No.
No, they did
They
him well.
literally had
Herb, you
almost
know, you could
disowned him.
touch, you speak on this. I mean, ouch!
I,
It's
I thought he used
yeah,
to be at like their matches and stuff like that.
Not anymore.
he was not anymore, but
Uh,
he's been put to the wayside now, and it's in a bad way. He's like, oh, he did all he did, and now bye.
Yeah,
mm,
he literally almost doesn't exist in their lives and their mother's lives. It's the mother, the two sisters, and no Richard.
wow. Yeah, that's kind of disheartening.
Yeah. The life of a man. The life of a man of two world class athletes.
Mm-hmm.
So they ain't
Mm-hmm.
break him. They ain't break him off a little something.
All they did was bought.
No,
All
see,
they did was bought him that house. That's why I mentioned it.
and now he's going through some physical ailments himself. And last when I did follow up on it to some degree, they were like, for want of a better term, left him to fend for himself.
Yep. Yep.
Eh, well,
But when they were growing up, they saw how he got beat down hard. You know, I mean, right in front of all the daughters.
that's what we always say. There's no script to how this stuff is going in. Everybody have a unique and different situation, and people handle things differently. It's unfortunate that in his latter years
Hmm.
that's the way he's going to probably go out with limited support, and
Hmm.
can't even really speak too much further because I have to do more research on that and actually probably need to watch the movie.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. I mean, that's part of and that's part of the reason why I like you know doing this is because I end up coming across stuff that I hadn't known about, and I didn't know that the situation with him having to sell his business to bail out their mother who was invested in a bad trucking business. I was just like, you don't hear about this type of stuff.
Oh no, why should you? It's
Well,
about a black man.
well, this goes into the larger issue, Gavin, and BGS always covers this. About how the media
Hmm.
does not want to portray
Hmm.
certain demographics in certain lights, and
Yeah,
I'll leave that at that.
thank you. Exactly.
So when people start talking about you know bashing the certain demographics, I'm just like, y'all don't have a clue. Like if if the Black Manosphere, I'm gonna give Frank here, if the Black Manosphere wanted to bash women, I mean seriously, bash women, y'all will log off social media permanently. Permanently. Yeah, did Jediah. Eh, Coming from okay, let's look at it like this.
Hmm.
Coming from where he is in terms of his age, yes. Coming from
Hmm.
where he is in terms of his location, without a doubt. Everybody here may not be old enough to remember the Watts riots,
Hmm.
but you certainly should have at least read about it or heard about it in some iteration of history. And then we're not even talking about what happened with the Rodney King situation. So
Thank you.
absolutely,
Hmm.
LA has been the epicenter of so much. And I didn't even mention the Black Panthers. That's
Uh oh.
a whole nother thing.
That's yeah.
That
That's
doesn't even get discussed. I
mm,
yeah, I don't know. We got enough time in the world for that, but man, it's. I mean, there's so much that any individual could endure before, and you talked about this earlier, Dave, when men just say, you know what, we give up. We're done. We washing our hands of the situation. I'm gonna wash my hands of the situation, and wherever the
Hmm.
chips fall, that's where they stay at. I'm not picking them
Hmm.
up anymore.
Yeah, it's all real and relative, and people have to understand. Like, there's no script. You don't know how people are gonna respond to certain situations, and oftentimes, we try to use the theory of, well, just pray on it and do this and do that, but sometimes that just ain't it. that ain't the that ain't the answers, and for all the people who say don't believe that the best predictor of the future is your past, people don't want to look too deep into someone's past. That's why it's important to listen to people when they talk about their past. That's why I know in Herb's 100 Questions, his book, is got to be some questions about the past, and how people answer stuff will let you know, like, they said something here that was interesting and made me like it was a red flag, or maybe I want to hold back on dealing with them. Uh, but you have to put the stuff out there. Else, how else you gonna know?
Herb, real quick, your book, 100 Questions, is it going to be a paperback or ebook or both?
I don't know if I want to do an ebook. My thing, and I got this from Obsidian. Obsidian and Alan Roger Curry. Alan Roger Curry's books are available in in e format and um downloadable version. I can't remember the term for it. Um,
PDF.
yeah, PDF. I'm a fan of things that I can hold.
Hmm.
Uh, One of the reasons why is you you tend to retain the information more. So I you know I when I first came up with the concept, it was originally just going to be a pamphlet, like a 15-20 page pamphlet, nothing
Hmm.
extensive. But I keep coming out with different ideas of what I want to do, and then every week or so I come up with about 10 more questions. I'm at like 380 some odd questions right now.
Hmm.
it was only supposed to be 100. So I'm on Facebook, and every time I get on Facebook, I'm always either looking for show content or question content. So um with the first, I don't know, I might get 2 volumes out of this. With the first one, I'll probably put out 150 questions, and then I'll come back similar to what Dave did to put out an updated version with
Hmm.
more questions, because what I'm realizing is that for every question I could ask, those questions may not be relevant to everybody. And none of the questions, I shouldn't say none of the questions, all the questions that I have won't be relevant to everybody. There'll be some questions in there that people like, I don't have a use for this. I don't have a use for this. Or this wasn't anything for me. And that's understandable. I'm not going to be able to cover the gambit for everybody. Like, I can't get deep enough with religion for somebody who's looking for a religious aspect. But that's where you can supplement the book with your own thing. Case in point, if an individual wants to know about somebody's religious background,
Hmm.
they don't have to ask them directly. But because a lot of people don't understand how to ask a question to get certain information, they come at it like a bull in a china cabinet. And
Hmm.
that's not the way you get information without somebody understanding what it is that you want. And I was talking to a couple young men last night who are um in the Marine Corps, and it was about a 15-20 minute conversation. And I was telling them about the podcast, and I was asking about some red pill content and things of that nature.
Hmm.
And we happened to end up with the clip from News Radio. about America being the greatest country on the planet. And for anybody who's never heard that,
Mm-hmm.
please, I implore you, please, to go look at that clip about American exceptionalism and listen to that clip in its entirety.
What podcast is it again?
No, no, no. This is a TV show. It was called News Radio. And there's about a 4 minute, 30-second clip where they're on stage at a college and they're interviewing and talking about certain things. And the topic of American exceptionalism came up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And for people who've seen the movie Gettysburg, if you haven't seen the movie Gettysburg, then you're not going to understand who I'm talking about. The man that played Colonel Joshua L. Chamberlain, his
Mm-hmm.
name is Jeff Daniels. He plays the professor at the college where they're holding this seminar, and he
Mm-hmm.
answers the question, and he gives a beautiful soliloquy on America then, now, and the future. And this is something BGS always talks about, in terms of Western culture. And I know we're getting a little bit off topic here, but this needs to be fleshed out.
Mm-hmm.
So when somebody wants to know about the book or a question such as religion, don't ask them about religion. That's the last thing you want to actually ask somebody about is what religion are you? Ask them, do you celebrate Christmas? What are your thoughts about Christmas? Do you like Christmas music?
Mm-hmm.
All of those things are the opening to dialogue about religion. Ask them, what do you think about symbolism? And they'll tell you about symbolism. So when you see a cross, what do you think of? We're talking about religion, but nobody knows that we're actually talking about religion because you mentioned symbolism.
Mm-hmm.
These are the things that people who aren't skilled in asking questions fail to be able to do. And this is part of what I want to be able to do with the book, is to get people to understand that you can get certain pieces of information from an individual without them
Mm-hmm.
even knowing what you're asking.
Oh.
Like I'll finish out with this, and I'm gonna get roasted for this. I already know. When I say I don't deal with women who can't conceive, I always get the question, how the hell do you know if she can conceive or not? And I say, look, I didn't get to be almost 52 years old with no kids by happenstance. I said, so if I made it this far, then there's got to be a goddamn way that I've done it. And they say, what? There's got to be a way that I've actually managed to not deal with a woman who can conceive and still be sexually active. The one thing a woman is not going to lie about is wanting to be pregnant. I think we all will agree to that, even the women. Because if a woman wants to have another child, she'll tell you, you know what? I want to have more children. I want to have at least one more, maybe two more. Just like Daphne says last week, when her fiance then got together, she said, I'm not having any more kids, and I'm going to make sure that I don't. Up front, and we didn't even ask a question to her. So, how do you as a man know if a woman wants to have a child without asking her?
So Herb, you know that all of this is going. You need to you need to speed along the process because you know that there'll be some workshops and some conversations that we'll have in Niagara Falls that people will come out. You already know how we do. so so you got to push the shit in motion, man.
All right, man. Yeah. I'm not gonna give the answer. That's why it's gonna be in the book.
Mm. Man.
Well, guys, I don't. I don't want to prolong the conversation and just keep going. It would have been nice if some women would. I mean, thank you for the women that did chime in or would have came in and gave their perspective on what was said. And a lot of them they'll chime in on the reels or um, on the replays and stuff like that. But can't hide under covers forever about these conversations. You can't hide forever. Like it's going to manifest. It's going to come out in some shape or form. We always talk about sweeping stuff under the carpet, dirt. It comes up. It comes up. So you think you could take a pile of dirt, like, oh, let me lift up this carpet and just put it right there. That shit gonna come up one
Mm.
day, and that's why we had these conversations. And it's not always to make people uncomfortable, but we do know that being uncomfortable makes you grow and makes you step out of your element. But it's things that we just got to talk about.
Mhm.
We have to dialogue. It's unfortunate that we don't in our community have sit downs with the family and everybody eat at the same time, or during Thanksgiving time. But that's a whole different story. But a lot of us get together just to be around family. But we eat, like I seen some real on TikTok. We eat anywhere. We eat anywhere, all over the damn house, whatever. So you barely have it that you have these conversations over. And part of it is people that might not want to have these conversations because they know it's going to lead to hurtful situations, and you know how we get it be people fighting and shit, carrying old, and who knows. So I think we try to avoid a lot of stuff, but again, you can avoid it for so long, but sooner or later it's gonna come up in some shape or form,
Right.
and that's just unfortunate how it is. But here we ain't punching each other. We don't have access to hit each other and all that stuff. So we could talk about it, but I think people need to start thinking about having more dialogue and talk about painful situations in the family.
Yeah.
Mm. I mean, I know a lot of us, if you include alcohol into it, that's when other elements come up. But I think it's worthwhile to have conversations because even in little pockets, when you around family and you hear stuff, you hear deep rooted stuff, and you're like, wow, didn't know you felt that way. Like, damn, this is serious. And people start talking and bringing up stuff. How else we gonna get through this? Even not for us as we get older, but the younger generation, because they're more disconnected than ever now. I mean, we grew up with cousins and all that stuff. These kids, they don't know who the hell they related to or whatever the case is. They don't. They're in a whole different world.
And it's
They
amazing,
don't
but
want. They don't want to go to family reunions and stuff like that. They don't want to participate in that stuff because it's taken away from their digital world.
Yeah.
the digital connecting with so many family members that are spread out, geographically. So you would think then you got all these Zoom and Skypes and I don't know.
It's a different world for them though. They everything, nothing is physical, everything is pixel. That's the world that they live in. That's the world that they were born into. I mean, everything. It's look at it like this. There's an episode in Star. Matter of fact, there's an episode in Star Trek where Data discovers a damaged ship. There's three people on there who have been cryogenically frozen.
Hmm.
They are able to bring them back to life, but two of them are having the most awful time adjusting because nothing's the same. There's only one guy who actually was able to adjust to being dead for 300 years. That's
Hmm.
where these kids are. None of this is real to them except what they can hold in their hand. So the concept of money is foreign to them. The concept of investing is foreign to them. Even the concept of time doesn't really exist because for them it's like they can go into the what the I can't remember the what's the name they call it on Star Trek where they go into the make
Porter,
believe
the transporter.
no the make believe room
Oh,
and run out the holodeck. They can go to the holodeck and relive whatever it is that they want to. So for them to transition from the digital world to the physical world is almost in a sense traumatic to them because now they're forced to actually have to do something. Like they gotta just imagine if you gave these kids some directions on how to build a doghouse. And I'm not talking about kids 7, 8. I'm talking about kids 15, 16, 17, 18.
mm-hmm.
You gave them you gave them instructions, all the materials there to build a doghouse. Do you think they could do it?
No.
Conversely, we could at their age, but that's the disconnect that this generation has with the physical world. It doesn't exist to them until they're pushed into it. And I think that's the danger with giving these kids technology at such a young age without um having them do anything that that gets them to understand that there is a virtual world, but the virtual world doesn't exist without the physical. In other words, if you don't get somebody to lay the fiber optic lines, to dig the ditches and bury it, to take satellites up into space, you don't have this virtual world.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost akin to having a conversation with a female about certain things when her world is so insular that nothing exists outside of that. We all hear women talking about, well, my friends and my relatives don't do that. We don't question that. But
Mm-hmm.
there's a whole world outside of your friends and your family that partakes in that in some way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're never exposed to it, it doesn't exist. That's a lot of what these kids are dealing with.
Yeah, and I think with a lot of the kids, to add to it, is situational awareness that you could tell them, I'll be there in 5 minutes. And in their world, eh, back in our days, if somebody said they're going to be somewhere in 5 minutes, you looking out the door, you looking out the window, you peeping through the blinds.
Mm-hmm.
Nah, they don't do that. If you ain't text them and say I'm outside or whatever the case is, they ain't moving. So you're like, damn, I said I was gonna be here in 5 or 10 minutes. Why didn't you look up? Well, why didn't you text me and say you were here? Like, so it's a lot of that that's going on. The disconnect that there's gaps in between that they don't get that we think is common sense, and then we come down on them and like, damn, they're in a whole nother world. Everything is in their hands. Like, yo, if you out here, yo, let me text you. I'm out here.
Right.
And other than that, well, we would know to like, shit. Okay, they say they out here. Let me look out the door. Let me go on the porch. Let me let me be ready when they come. Nah, if you ain't, you could be sitting there and say, okay, I told them I was gonna be in 5 minutes, so I know somebody about to come through the door. Shit, you could very well sit there 15, 20 minutes and they will not move, but they're ready to come out because you didn't text them or whatever the case or call them. They ain't moving. That's crazy, but that's where we're at. A whole disconnect, and somehow anybody that's creative and all that, they need to come with workshops and all that. And they always talk about bridging the gap. They need to bridge that gap of
Yep.
communication. Well, fellas, I ain't gonna belabor the point. We're gonna be on to the next. We got closing comments coming up, and we're gonna get up out of here. Anybody got any closing comments?
Yeah, I'll go first. I love. You guys know how I love songs, and Greg always gets on me about my singing, so I'm not gonna sing. But what I am gonna do is recite a portion of the song "Control." You know, we talked about Joe Jackson, but I'm gonna mention Janet's song. She said, "When I was 17, I did what people told me. I did what my father said, and let my mother mold me. Not enough of that is going on, so the results are positive. A lot of what we're getting is mothers molding their daughters to not want to be women. Now, how is that going to play out long term? Well, I think we're seeing it. You know, passport Joes, passport bros, the dissolution of the family unit. People are mostly women anyway. Men are like, "Oh, we're gonna find our happiness either here or abroad," and women aren't going to have that same success. So the question becomes, what are they going to do to arrest that situation? I predict that, and I said this earlier, in the next 10 to 20 years, they are going to catch hell. Okay. And as always, growth and understanding occurs in a gray area. Godspeed. See you next time.
Great, thank you. Gavin, you got anything you want to close out with?
Well, so I caught this discussion, and now from what you said earlier, I guess last week there was discussion about mothers raising their sons.
Mhm.
I'm gonna put a bug in both you guys' ears. Are you gonna do part three? Men raising their sons. Case in point, or as an example, prime time.
Mm.
And look how, or what I'm going with is look pretty much how much of a success he is in doing this. He's raised his sons. They're now at college level football. He took over a beleaguered football program at a college, at a university, and has raised their standards. Last year was 111. This year, 4-8, I believe they ended. I
I
don't know
believe
if
next
people,
year they'll be bowl eligible.
sorry.
I said I believe next year they'll make a bowl.
Oh, thank you. Because and here's the funny thing about that, and I'll let you go. Back in the 80s, you guys remember the Georgetown Hoyas?
Of course.
John Thompson?
Yes.
Same thing. When he joined, they had a shitty record. And it took him a couple of seasons whereby, oh, they were the team that nobody could beat. They were the Hoyas. Prime Time's in the same situation. What did people expect after just one season, 1 year? I'll say this much. The revenue that he generated just this season, to my understanding, I might be incorrect, but from last time I looked, he was able to generate $45 million for the University of Colorado, Boulder. His entire contract, what is it, 3, 4, 5 years? Just under 30 million. So they're already in the black with him already. On that end,
Yeah.
again, black man success, black man excellence. What is he getting his fair due, his fair props?
Well, he's not the only one. If you look at Ohio State, Marvin Harrison Jr. Um, the league is littered. Matter of fact, Bol. His father was Manute Bol. Um, shoot, Curry. Del Curry was his father. I mean, the landscape is littered with them.
Yeah,
I'll leave with that. Brother David, you have the floor. Of course, it's your show, but hey.
yeah, that will be an interesting comeback because a lot of times on this platform, Herb and other guys just said, hey, give the sons over to the father. And some of the mothers are reluctant to do that because they say they could do everything. I can coach, I could do all that stuff. So I just have to come up with a crafty title or whatever the case is. um, or just be direct and then have that conversation when fathers raise sons and go from there. So we will carry on with that theme. So thanks, Gavin, for that. So I don't have to worry about it. So now I can start programming that in my head to have that conversation. But overall,
And
as far
please
as
send me the link because I would love to be a part of that. I would like to be on the panel for that program. Please.
for sure, for sure. And as
Thank you.
far as the closing comments for that, I think at the end of the day, um, no matter boy or girl, whatever, sometimes you have to stop and think like, what is it? What is the best interest of the child? And both parties, everybody have to be thinking about that because a lot of times as adults, you're in a tug of war between you two, and you have to think, what's the best interest of the child? We owe.
You know, that's going to segue into another topic, another show I have. Not since you said that, but we'll leave that to another day. I'll let you focus on the one we just tabled.
Oh, yeah, then it's just closing it out. Period. Just
Yes, sir.
marinating, putting something out there that sometimes you have to think about it. Even if we think about some of the talking points right now, that we discussed tonight. Oh, as a dad, you being stubborn. Like I think Ronell had mentioned, the father pretty much said, "Shit, good luck to you." Um, After the daughter was exhausted for reaching out.
Mm.
When do you say, damn, enough is enough? Damn, she didn't call me all this time. A couple weeks then went by. When am I going to say, let me pick up the phone, call her back, or whatever the case is? Sometimes we have to think the best interest of the child because you never know when you're going to have to depend on them when you get older or whatever the case is. And y'all mentioned King Richard in that situation didn't pan out too well, and maybe it wasn't the exact same thing that I'm talking about now, but you don't know how a child really feels about you, uh, and maybe until you get older and you realize you some older person, older man, older woman, and you're in a place and no one comes to see you, and you just left there, and you have no love ties and all that stuff. We all got to do better. We all got to make improvements, and nobody's. Although a lot of people feel like they the perfect parents, they the experts and all that. We all got work to do. At the end of the day, we all got work to do, and the only way we improve if we have conversations about this. And you think like, damn, I never did that. Oh, that worked for them. Let me try this, or let me try that, or whatever the case is. There's work to be done, and during these times, we in desperate times. Whatever. Right now, we damn sure all need to work on self improvement. And I ain't talking about, oh, I got to lose 50 pounds. Oh, I'm getting married by this. Because as we approach these stupid ass New Year's resolutions and all of this stuff come into play, whatever, come with something. Come with smart goals.
Mhm.
And I've talked about this before. Smart goals. Specific, measurable, attainable, sort of like relevant and timely that you can accomplish something by, accomplish it by. You can't come with some goals and that shit gonna take you 10 years to do. Come with something that you can do it, and that's how you need to set goals. They need to be smart goals. How many of us ready to set smart goals for 2024? And if you say you're gonna do something, set a timeline. Like this shit need to be done by this time,
Mhm.
and you put a program in place to make sure it's done. If you're talking about losing weight and all that, then you need to say, hey, by March, I want to lose this amount of weight. Um, and that's the only way it's really going to be accomplished unless you challenge yourself. Because other than that, if you kind of leave stuff open ended, shit, you might say, I'm planning on lose 10 pounds. You lose them 10 pounds 3 years later. What the fuck did that do? What did that do? So we got to push back. We got to challenge ourselves, and we got to get things done. And I know we say this every year, but to me, it seemed like shit is getting more critical, especially as for us that's in our late 40s and 50s and all that stuff. It's getting real critical to put these SMART goals out there and make them work for us. And with that said, we out, good people. Thanks for everybody who tuned in. You already know what it is for next week. These fathers raising these sons. So let's see. And not all situations is good with fathers raising sons. So, and I'm gonna be the first to admit, sometimes you still, hopefully that son still needs a little of that mother touch, that little nurturing touch that he stopped by Mom Duke's house to get a little of that home cooking and that nurturing. But if she toxic, then I don't know, maybe stepmama will be around, and the mother like, I don't want her around my son. All right, good people, we out. Thank you all, and see you next time. Peace. All right.